Raman Raghav, originally born as Raghava in 1929 in the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu, came from a background marked by hardship and instability. His early years were shaped by poverty, and he grew up in an environment where petty theft and violence were commonplace. With no formal education and little guidance, he drifted aimlessly, unable to find a stable path. In the 1950s, seeking work and opportunity, Raghav moved to Mumbai, then Bombay. But instead of finding stability, he led a transient, lonely existence, working odd jobs and often living on the streets. Over time, his mental health deteriorated. He became deeply paranoid, convinced that invisible forces were controlling his actions and that certain people posed a threat to him. These growing delusions set the stage for a terrifying chapter in Mumbai's history. Between 1965 and 1968, Raghav unleashed a reign of terror on the city. He primarily targeted vulnerable people, the homeless, slum dwellers, and those sleeping out in the open. His attacks were brutal and sudden. Using iron rods, stones, or whatever blunt object he could find, he would bludgeon his victims, often while they slept. His crimes lacked a clear motive in the usual sense. He wasn't driven by revenge, greed, or lust. Instead, Raghav later claimed that he felt compelled by voices in his head, voices that told him whom to kill. This made his actions all the more chilling because they seemed random and unstoppable. At the height of his killing spree, entire neighborhoods in Mumbai lived in fear. People avoided sleeping outdoors. The police, overwhelmed and baffled, struggled to identify the killer behind this wave of murders. During this tense period in late August 1968, the Mumbai police launched an intensive manhunt, especially in the northern suburbs. They set up night patrols and started questioning suspicious individuals. On the 27th of August 1968, a police sub-inspector named Alex Fiallo was patrolling the Dongri area. He spotted a disheveled man behaving oddly. What drew attention was something seemingly small but strange. Raghav was carrying a wet umbrella even though it hadn't rained. Fiallo grew suspicious and decided to question him. When questioned, Raghav was evasive and couldn't explain his movements properly. He was taken into custody for further questioning. Initially, Raghav refused to speak or admit anything, but the police changed tactics. They treated him gently, providing him with food, notably chicken curry, clean comb, hair oil, and a mirror. This seemed to soothe him. Once calm, he began to talk. Raghav calmly confessed to the murders. He personally confessed to 41 murders, but not all could be conclusively linked to him due to the conditions of the time and the limitations of forensic methods in 1960s India. The police officially charged him with several of these murders. Reports vary between 23 and 27 proven cases, focusing on those where they had the strongest evidence. He described how he chose his victims. His victims were mostly vulnerable people, slum dwellers, beggars, and those sleeping outdoors, who were bludgeoned to death while they slept, and even led the police to where he had hidden his murder weapon, a heavy iron rod. Raghav was found guilty for multiple murders and initially sentenced to death. However, when doctors examined him, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, a severe mental illness that had likely driven his crimes. Because of this, his death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment. He spent the rest of his days behind bars, mostly at Yerwada Central Jail in Pune. He lived out his final years in stark contrast to his violent past, quietly, without aggression toward fellow prisoners or guards. He eventually died in prison in 1994, reportedly from kidney failure. Raman Raghav remains one of India's most infamous serial killers. His case is significant not just because of the number of victims, but because it highlighted the link between untreated mental illness and violent crime.